screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So, hey guys, just to give a brief intro about myself. This is Ajay here, and from past 5 years, I've been working on the AEM side, the Adobe Experience Manager. So apart from implementing projects, I also kind of have also been in the training side, been on the training side from past 3 years. So yeah, pretty much going good. And till now, it's been like a mixture of both. So as I said, like it's always good to have a Java background. If not, it's not a problem. So you can pretty much learn basics of core Java and whatever required for the web development. If you learn those simple basic technologies, it would be very helpful for you guys to get started with this particular framework. Okay, so today's agenda would be mostly about just to give you guys a brief about what is the product about, the Adobe Experience Manager, and a bit of a history as to how the CMS evolved. And apart from that, we'll go over, so as a developer, what you would be doing as a developer, right? So just a basic idea as to uh, what and how things would be done on the AEM side, right? And also, before we proceed with the actual agenda, so I just wanted to share with you guys that we have, I actually split my training into two parts. One is the basic developer, and the second module is the advanced developer module. Okay, so in the basic developer, I would say 70% of the training would be covered as part of the basic developer. So in this course, basic developer course, you get the core concepts of what what we'll be doing in the content management system, right? So you have a lot of core concepts like building a component, building a template, client libraries, workflows, and things like that. So those basic concepts would be understood, and basic and core concepts. So that would cover 70% of the training. And the second module, the advanced developer course, is also pretty important, and it kind of covers most of the advanced concepts like how to build a scheduler, what is eventing, and certain things like observation, users, group permissioning, and things like that. So mostly it will be Java coding here. So here most of the coding would be in the front end. When I say front end, it is JSP and not pure HTML. So anyways, HTML would be taken care of by the front end team. So we would be dealing with creating components, creating templates, and all the exercises which we do are hands-on. So pretty much by the end of the course, you would have a mini project in your hand, and you can refer those projects to your real-time projects. I mean, your real-time implementation, right? So that is the main motto of the training course content. That is how it is planned. And the overall duration, so every day it is 1 hour per day, and it will be Monday to Friday usually. And if at all required, I would let you know if we would have classes on the weekend, that is Saturday and Sunday. So it will be every day 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. PST Pacific time. And the duration of the whole course is about roughly 23 to 25 hours. Okay, so it will be completed within a month. So basically 4 weeks to 5 weeks max. So that is the whole duration of the course. So any questions or any doubts about the course content?
Is there any PDF or book also to refer for this training?
Yes. So coming to what would be provided, sorry, coming to what would be provided as part of the training or the course. So we would be providing something called as class notes. So this class notes will have whatever I explain in the class, whatever PPT I explain in the class, that would be covered. And apart from that, we also would be providing, like say we'll get started with basic developer, right? So as part of basic developer, I would also be providing a student workbook. So this student workbook pretty much contains all, like say for example, this is the student workbook. So it is a 5.6 student develop, I mean it's a 5.6 workbook, but even then uh, what I would be covering as part of the class, it contains all the concepts of 6.2 as well. So the version of AEM which we would be focusing on is 6.2. So pretty much the way you approach the development is same in 5.6 and 6.2. It's just that there are multiple scripting languages which got, so backend there might be a huge change from 5.6 to 6.2, but from a developer's perspective, from a developer, I look at it as a framework. For me, when I develop things, pretty much 95% of the things remain same, and it's just that each and every new version they keep on adding some few extra features to it to improve the performance, to make the content creator's life easy and things like that, right? So this PDF would be shared with you guys, and this PDF is pretty helpful. It has chapter by chapter exercises that we would be covering and pretty much everything in this PDF. Okay, so apart from the PDF, I would also be sharing the server with you. Like, yeah, you would require a server to install in your local. So this server is it's a jar file, and I'll also be providing the license for that jar file. It's a training license, so make sure you don't use it in your, I mean, you can use it in your laptop, but make sure you don't use it for other development activities of your organization. So just use it for training purpose and learning purpose. Okay, so these are the things. So just to summarize, as part of the training materials, I'd be providing something called as class notes every day. This class note contains of whatever topics we are speaking, and all the uh, uh, I mean links as to explore more with respect to that particular topic, right? So the class notes and the video recording. So this would be provided every day. And apart from this, we would also be providing something called as the PDF or the workbook and the server, and uh, we have all the exercises which are, this is a working copy of all the exercises. Since we don't get a chance to type all the exercises, these exercises are already working, so it's just that I would be explaining all the exercises. So I'd be providing the exercises as well. Okay, so moving on, right? And yeah, one last thing before we proceed towards the agenda of today. So the other thing is that uh, the method of how I teach, right? So generally you don't have to, so whenever I'm kind of doing the exercises, you don't have to do it simultaneously with me. You just have to observe and understand whatever I'm doing. And after the class, you can, based on my recording, the recording which I would be providing, and also the PDF, which has step-by-step, which has step-by-step details as to how to perform the exercise would be there. With reference of that and my recording, you can, you should be able to do it on your own. And then if you get stuck or if you're not able to proceed further, I'll always be there to help you guys. Okay, so it's just that you just have to listen to the class, and then it's up to you if you want to make some notes or observation of your own kind. But pretty much everything would be included for you. It's just that you need to observe, and if you have any questions, please feel free to shoot. Okay, so coming to the actual topic here, all said and done. Before going into what is Adobe CQ, we would go into the history of CQ, right? So initially, CQ was built by uh, an organization called as Day Softwares. So they built this software, the Adobe CQ software, and they called it as CQ because the company's name or the organization's name was Day CQ Software. This organization was based out of Switzerland, and they came up with this very good idea that people even with non-technical background can basically manage a website without having much of a dependency on the developers, right? That was the whole idea. And later on, somewhere in 2008, 2009, Adobe acquired this DayCQ softwares, and they rebranded the whole uh, product into Adobe CQ. CQ stands for Communique, and I think it's popularly known as CQ5, right? Adobe CQ5. And I've been working on, I mean, there are versions, very old versions as well. But if you hear the latest versions, it would be, I mean, the most recently used versions, it would be 5.6. And then from 5.6 onwards, they rebranded it to as Adobe Experience Manager. So you might hear people referring to this particular product or framework as CQ5, and some people might refer it to AEM. AEM stands for Adobe Experience Manager, right? Both are the same. Don't get confused and think that both are two different products of Adobe. Both are the same. It's just that from 5.6 onwards, they kind of renamed it to AEM. So now it's more popularly called as AEM. So the latest version of AEM is 6.3, which recently came out. And our course would be concentrating on 6.2. So I can, if you guys want, I can provide you the latest link. I mean, at the end of the training, I can just provide you certain links as to what has changed in 6.3. So there's nothing much important, but the core concept and knowledge remains the same, right? So we'll be focusing more on the 6.2 version. Okay, so this is kind of the history of, the AEM as a product. And yeah, coming to what is Adobe CQ, right? So let's, before understanding what is Adobe CQ, let's understand what is a CMS versus a WCMS, right? So content management system is, so CMS stands for Content Management System, and pretty much it has, so it's a platform where non-technical folks can manage all their content. When I say content, it can be digital asset. A digital asset can be anything, right? Like a image, a video, a presentation, a Word document. All these are digital assets. So managing these digital assets in a platform. Like say if you are kind of, you have your own system and you want to manage all the movies. So back in those days, you used to manage all the movies based on the genre, based on the year of the release and things like that. So a person, he has less number of files and he can manage it by himself. Think about it as a very big platform where you have like millions and billions of images, right? Millions of videos, millions of files. So then you need a content management system to manage it. And when I say manage it, you want an image. Say, let's take an example, the features of a CMS, right? So you have an image. when you upload an image into this particular CMS, and when you want to use it at some point of time, you need to enter some metadata information like the name of the image and what are all the renditions of the image. You want to create a small image, a big image, a medium size image, and all those things. Those are some of the features provided out of the box, right? And searching is another feature of a CMS, where when you have millions of images, you want to search for a particular image with a particular category and things like that. You can easily, so basically the whole idea is managing digital assets, right? So that is about CMS. Then what is WCMS? So WCMS is pretty much similar to a CMS. Along with managing the digital assets, you also manage web pages. So when you have a website consists of thousands of web pages, right? A website can have one single page, it can have 10 pages, it can have hundreds of pages. So managing those web pages for a website is called as a web content management system. Along with managing the digital assets, the same way you also create a website and manage all the web pages within the website. When I say manage the website, it is like creating a web page and deciding what should be the content within the website. And all of this without much of a dependency with the developer. So back in the traditional web development, what used to happen, like generally this is what was the case. Like the web developer would build the pages and the content used to be given by the content team. And it's the developer's job to put in the content in between, right? But here that is not the case. So the developer, a web content management system developer, will develop a platform, and that platform would be used by the content creators, that is the authors, who will manage as in, who it is up to him as to if he wants an image, he'll drag and drop an image. If he wants to change the text within the web page, he can do that without being dependent on the web developer. So that is basically called as a web content management system, right? So this is a difference between a content management system and a web content management system. And AEM is a web content management system. And now coming to like what is, according to the slide, like what is Adobe CQ? So in my own words, like let me just get a marker here, and I'll just change the color. Okay, so AEM is a product. So yeah, before going into what is AEM, there are three roles in AEM. One is the developer, and the second role is the author, and the third is the end user. Okay, so these are the three different roles which you need to consider before understanding what is AEM. So developer is a person I was speaking about, right? The person who creates that platform, the generic platform, which can be used by the authors. Authors are nothing but content creators. Okay, so authors are nothing but content creators. They are the ones who, let's say you have a website which changes every day. So this person, the content creator or the author, he can do it by himself using a web content management system. He doesn't have to develop, he doesn't have to be dependent on the developer for his daily tasks of changing the image, changing the text, creating a new web page and things like that. So all of that generic platform would be created by the developer. And once the content is created, he will publish the content. So the author publish the content. He publishes the content, and this published content is used by the end users. End users can be anyone who is just accessing the browser and the website, right? So this is the whole whole concept of AEM. So just to put it in the form of a diagram, we have AEM as a product or a tool. So this becomes a tool for the author, but for the developer, it is not a tool. So this AEM for the developer is a framework. Using this framework, the developer will create a platform. And this platform is used by, so this is the developer who creates the platform using the AEM framework. And the author, the content creator or author, creates web pages for the website. For now, let's consider this square as a web page, and he creates a web page, and he can add images, he can add text, he can draw layouts however the page needs to be, and then once this page is ready, he publishes the page. And once the page is published, the end user will access the website, right? That's the whole idea about uh, the AEM as a web content management system. And tomorrow, like if this page keeps changing every day, the author, he will again go and he will add some image or he will remove something, and then he'll again publish the page so that the end user gets the updated content very easily, right? So this is the flow of how things work in the Adobe CQ5 or the Adobe Experience Manager. Okay, so any doubts or any questions till now? Okay, so now moving forward, like since we understood like a basic picture, so from a technical standpoint, Adobe CQ5 is built on Java. So the main backbone, the underlying technology is Java. And as you all know nowadays, it's a client, it has a client server architecture where the person using this particular product or tool, that is the author, he need not install anything on his system. He just requires a browser. Say for example, to use Facebook in your laptop, you don't have to install Facebook. It's a different case when you use it with a mobile, but when you use Facebook in your laptop, you just open up the browser. It's already deployed. It's deployed somewhere on another server, and you just access it using the browser. Similarly, the author, since it is a client server architecture, when I say client server, client is your browser, server is that machine which hosts your application. It might be a web application or it might be anything, right? So see, AEM, Adobe Experience Manager, has a client server architecture where the person using the tool, that is the author, to create content, he does not have to install any software. He just needs the browser to access the AEM software. But for developer, you would require, I mean, even you would be accessing the product through the browser, but since you you would be doing a lot of development, you would also require the server to be installed in your local so that you can deploy those new development tasks which you have done. You can deploy them and see how the changes are reflected. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So now moving on to the benefits of CQ. So there are a lot of other uh, content management system and web content management system like Joomla, Drupal, Alfresco, Documentum, WordPress. So there are a lot of other content management system or web content management system, but it's so basically uh, it's up to the organization to choose the product or the framework based on their needs. So it's not that I'm promoting AEM or it's not that I'm just promoting AEM here. So other CMSs are also good, but it depends on the needs. When I say needs, each and every organization, when they build their website, they would have certain criteria. So they should kind of come up with a checkpoint as to which product satisfies their criteria and go with that particular product. But some of the benefits with AEM is that it is always I mean it's with respect to scalability, it's very good. When you have a website which needs to cater to millions and billions of users, then in that enterprise level, it's always good. It performs well. The architecture of AEM is such that it can handle that much load, right? And apart from that, it's more intuitive. Like say nowadays, all the websites, whichever website you see, it keeps changing every day, right? So for that to happen, the content authors need to keep updating the content of the web page every day. So it's more intuitive, and it's not that much of a pain to update the content within the web page and then publish it to the end user. So managing a website is very intuitive and it's easy to use for the authors. So that is one of the benefit. And let's say the other benefit is that all these are out of the box provided by the AEM framework, like multi-site. So let's say you are launching a website and it's not just for the US region. You want to launch it to China region and other Europe countries, right? So at that time, you can use the multi-site feature where you can easily just create, and again, all of this is done by the content creator or the author. So the author can just create a single website in English, and then he can publish the same website in different languages for different regions. So that is also provided out of the box. And another thing is that when your organization wants to go with a product, they want an end-to-end solution. So there is something called as Adobe Marketing Cloud or the Adobe Marketing Suite, where AEM, the Experience Manager, is the heart of the system, and it has a lot of other solutions. These are all small solutions like analytics, campaign manager, social, target. So these are all the integrations which can be done to the Adobe Experience Manager. So if an organization is buying the product and they want to integrate analytics, it's very easy. So with very minimal code and by just configuration, you can just integrate. So let's say you build a website using Experience Manager. You want analytics to it. So you just buy a product, you buy the analytics product, and then integrate it with Experience Manager. It's a seamless integration. So you don't have to put in a lot of efforts or development hours to kind of integrate analytics to Experience Manager. Same goes with other products. So there are a lot of other products, but there are only few listed down here, like Campaign Manager. You want to promote a campaign. Media Optimizer is another solution provided by the Adobe Marketing Cloud, where all your media, the digital assets, can be hosted on a separate server. And social integration, like integrating, like having your website forum capabilities, blog capabilities, and things like that would come under social, right? And if you want to target a specific content to a specific group of people, you can use test and target. Okay, so these are all the other. So what I meant to say is the advantage is that it provides an end-to-end solution. You don't have to look out for other third-party solutions. So you have all the solutions within the marketing cloud. Pretty much most of the solution is already available, and it's easy to integrate as well, since it's from the same platform. It's from the same marketing cloud, Adobe Marketing Cloud. The product itself has the capability to do the integration with just configurations and very less customization or development activities, right? So that's the whole idea. And just to show another slide, So this is just another slide of explaining. So this is a symbol for Adobe Experience Manager. So as you can see from this slide, it is the heart of the system, and you can integrate other solutions like analytics, target, and other solutions into the Adobe Experience Manager. Okay. So as part of this training or course, we would be going over Adobe Experience Manager, and we would not be learning analytics, social integration, and all these are other solutions. But the main part here is the Adobe Experience Manager. Okay. So we would be primarily focusing on AEM. And once you learn AEM, so then it's just another I mean, you just have a lot of resources to kind of see how the integration goes on with analytics and AEM. So, but as part of this training, we'll be going over the Adobe Experience Manager. Okay. So any doubts or any questions till now?
Ajay, where does e-commerce fall under this?
Mhm. So e-commerce, so Adobe is kind of, they have their own e-commerce engine, but it's not that popular. So generally, whenever you have a AEM site, the e-commerce part would be handled by a software called as Hybris, or there is something called as ATG. So these integrations, there are already connectors built. So Hybris and AEM, as an organization, they've come together and built some connectors. So if you go, I mean, if you have the license of AEM and Hybris, so they would provide a connect. I mean, the connectors are already available out there, and they would provide a connector which can integrate Hybris with AEM. And it actually depends. Even though the connector is there, you'll have to go through a lot of integration points as to how to integrate AEM. Sorry, how to integrate the e-commerce within the AEM. Okay, cool. So now, from the slide, so these are the advantages. And from the slide, so if you see here, this is something called as the technology stack. So like I said, CQ5 or AEM is built on Java, right? When I say Java, it has, I mean, Java has a lot of other frameworks. Like the basic is Java, and on top of Java, you can have frameworks like Spring, Hibernate, and all of those frameworks, right? So if you see all these three technologies, their main backbone is Java. So CQ5 is based out of all these three technologies. Okay, so it's based out of Apache Sling, Java Content Repository, and OSGI. All these three technologies together form CQ5 or AEM. Okay, so let's, I mean, today I'll just give you guys a 5 minute, like a brief about all these three technologies, but uh, these technologies are, I have it as a separate chapter, and I'll be covering them in detail as and when we proceed towards the next classes. Okay, so let's start with Java Content Repository. So Java Content Repository, as the name suggests, it is a repository. And this repository is like how in traditional web application, traditional databases, you have tables and columns and rows, right? So here you don't have, it's a NoSQL database where there are no tables. Rather, this database has something called as nodes. So you have a node, and each node can have a child node, and that node can again have a child node, or it might not have any child node, right? So it's all node structure. I mean, it's not, it has a hierarchical structure, and it is basically kind of, it's not as structured as the traditional database where you have tables, you have a primary key, you have a reference key and things like that. So that is, it has a free structure where you have nodes, and each node has something called as properties. So you can have n number of properties per node, and each property again has something called as name value pairs. So let's say you want to store a list of employee IDs. So you want to store all the employee IDs, right? So this node would be employee ID, and it would have properties. Properties are nothing but employee ID. So the name would be like the column. I mean, so you can name this node as employee, and then here the properties, you can have n number of properties, that is the employee ID, and the value would be the employee ID in actual employee ID. So this would be the column name. Like that, you can have n number of properties to a particular node. So I mean, once you I'll be showing the console as to how to go through the repository and things like that. It'll be very familiar. You'll be very familiar the once we basically, as and when we do the exercises, we'll be looking at a lot of properties. There are, this property can be a user defined property, and there are system properties as well. So we'll be seeing a mix and match of your own user property and the system properties as well. Okay, so basically this Java content repository is the place where all the data is stored, all your digital assets, even the code which you write in AEM is stored in Java content repository in the form of nodes, properties, in the form of nodes, properties, and key value pairs. Okay, so now let me just erase. Okay, so now coming to Sling. Sling acts as it acts as a interface between the end user. So Sling acts as a layer between the end user and the database. So let's say this is Sling and your database is here. So what Sling does is, whenever the user types a URL, whether it is a GET request, whether it is a put, post, whatever request it is, Sling, so basically Sling handles the request and response. So all your website request and response is handled by Sling. And the Sling framework, it's a, I mean, it's an open source framework, not only used by, it's not just used in CQ, it's used in a lot of other frameworks or other products. So basically what Sling does is it handles the request and response for your web application. And let's say if I request a page as an end user, so it is the job of Sling to go here and then fetch the required data or execute the code and then get the response and put it back. So basically it acts as a request, I mean, it handles all the request and response, and pretty much apart from handling the request and response, it has a lot of other features like scheduler and events, Sling events. Like this, there are a lot of other features available within the, you can create a scheduler where every 5 minutes you want to execute a job, you can use the Sling scheduler. And if based on certain events, if you want to act upon certain events, so then you can create a Sling event. So Sling basically it's a very good framework for it's a very main, it's, I mean, it's one of the main building blocks of CQ5. Okay, so I have like separate chapters and we will be going like, now you understand that request and response is handled by Sling, but in detail how the request is handled, how the web page is rendered back, and all those things, we'll be going over that in a separate chapter. Okay, so now coming to OSGI. OSGI stands for Open Source Gateway Initiative. It is also a product of Apache. So what the Adobe folks have done is they've taken most of the open source frameworks and they've built a implementation on top of, like say OSGI. Uh, its implementation is Apache Felix. So OSGI is a specification. Apache Felix is the implementation. So they've built implementation on top of the specification, and all together they call it as all these three technologies form the CQ5 product. Okay, so coming to OSGI, right? So OSGI is a framework. Again, it's another framework like Spring or any other Java framework, where the container of the OSGI, it can have multiple modules. So basically it's a modularized framework where it can have multiple modules. It can have module 1, module 2, module 3, and each module can have different functionalities. When I say different functionality, this can be for logging, so login functionality. This can be for e-commerce, right? So like that, it can have different functionality, and each one of them are not tightly coupled with each other. So when login wants certain when login wants to use certain services of this module, it can use it, but it's not tightly coupled. As in, if this, you have the leverage of bringing up and bringing down. When I say bringing up and bringing down, if there's if there's some problem in login module, you can just bring down that particular module, and then you can bring it back up whenever it is right. And you can deploy this particular module separately. You can deploy this particular module separately. So it is a modularized application which is not tightly coupled. And in CQ, whenever you install the server, each one of this is a separate module. Java Content Repository is a OSGI module. Apache Sling is a OSGI module, which is kind of deployed as a separate module. Like this, you have like around 400 to 450, close to 500 modules, OSGI modules, which are like most of the product code and things like that, right? So basically, it is a modularized framework where all your Java code, all your business logic, you write it as a separate module, and it can interact with the front end component. So there is something called as AEM components, which we will be creating like an image component. You might have a component which requires certain data, business data. So that interaction would be done back and forth. So all your backend logic goes into a particular module. And we'll be looking into OSGI mostly in the advanced developer, where we'll be creating Java classes, and like how whenever you write a EJB class, right? If you use the EJB framework, there is a set of rules you need to follow, and you need to annotate the class with certain annotations. So like that, we'll also see how to write a Java class using the OSGI framework. Okay, so these three technologies form are the we can say these are the technology stack which forms AEM. Okay, so any doubts or any questions till now?
No, Ajay.
Okay, cool guys. So yeah, pretty much this is what I plan to cover for today. That is day one. So again, we'll meet tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll go through the architecture of CQ and how the request comes, how the response goes, and things like that. What is caching and things like that. And if time permits, tomorrow I'll also show you guys how to install the CQ server in your local, so that you can get started with the exercises um, from day after tomorrow. Okay, and for just your information, the prerequisites. Let me just get my pointer. Yep. So the prerequisites for this particular training, you don't have to be advanced a user or a advanced developer. It's just that it's good to know core Java. If you know core Java, it'll be very easy. And if you have worked with servlets and JSPs, that would also be very useful. And technologies like HTML, JavaScript, CSS. So all these are pretty much the technologies which are used in AEM while AEM developer in his day-to-day implementations. Okay, so any questions?
I'm good, Ajay.
Okay, cool. Okay, guys, let's conclude the class for today, and we'll meet tomorrow again at 7 p.m. PST. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. See you tomorrow.
See you, Ajay.